Eugene, they were here a minute ago, but we've got Eugene and Henny, which is our two colleagues, which also look after the education space, play a big role in that space, so you can reach out to them. I'll point them out to you as the evening goes on. So the partnership with Eugene has obviously been quite important to us, and I think in so doing, I'm going to hand over to the founder and CEO of Ingenie, which is Jamie Martin. Please, if you can join me up in stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Just over 2 years ago now, in the wake of another failure by African countries in an international education comparison, I wrote an article in the Mail and Guardian that said we would try and launch the first education technology dedicated incubator program on the African continent. And since the article was published, we've run over 20 events like tonight across the African continent, attended by over 2,500 people. We launched that incubator program, and our first two cohorts have received nearly 1,000 applications from 36 different countries. We've selected two cohorts of 8, worked with them on 5-month programs, and invested them to the tune of over $500,000. Now, we started out on this because we believed that education on the African continent was fundamentally broken. But while technology is not a silver bullet that cannot fail, it is a tool that can help. And it can help the most in the hands of local entrepreneurs who are solving their own problems in their own context. And the Ingenie team committed ourselves to helping them because we believed that it was as important a problem as you could work on in terms of the future challenges of this continent. But as Margaret Thatcher once said, nobody would have remembered the Good Samaritan if he had only good intentions. He had money as well. And Ingenie would have achieved nothing without our funders. Our initial seed investment from the Cape Innovation and Technology Initiative, bigger funding from the Western Cape government, the UBS Optimus Foundation, and the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. So can you please give all of our funders a big round of applause for making this happen? As well as people entrusting their money and therefore their faith with you, one of the most humbling things about founding an organization is watching other people work with more skill and even more dedication than you can manage to realize your vision. Anything Ingenie does is because of a lot of people who work hard to plan, run, and clear up after events like this evening. It's because of people who come in and give a talk or run a session or mentor on our program. It's because of our shorter term employees, Mimi, Darren, Sakile, Tim, and Olga. And above all else, it's because of the two people who have driven this program forward since its inception, Doreen and Ruth. If you see anything about tonight that you think is impressive, know for absolutely certain that I didn't do that, they did that. So please give them the round of applause they so richly deserve. Because tonight marks not just the demo day for cohort 2, but the culmination of our initial remit from our funders to launch this incubator program and run the first 2 cohorts. And when I look back over that period, I think that we have got some things right, and I think we've got some things wrong. We've learned a lot, and it's important that we share it. We were founded on the belief that government wasn't the solution to this problem. Government often was the problem. And anyone who looks across the continent today sees low accountability but high corruption, a failure to restrain recalcitrant teaching unions, a total failure to acknowledge, let alone tackle, big problems like the literacy crisis, I think we're as right about that now as we ever were. We also said that if they were just given the chance, the opportunity, the support and the backing, local entrepreneurs would come forward with big ideas for building companies that can improve education in Africa. And I think tonight you are going to see 7 fantastic pitches that will persuade you that we were right about that as well. So no pressure, guys. But I think we were wrong about the scope of things that technology can really be relevant to. And I think we've learned from that, and you will see tonight that we have focused in areas where we believe there is business product market fit and real impact, like out-of-school tools for practice in core academic subjects, platforms for adult learning, employability, linking people to higher education, and school management and teacher support tools. I also think that we were wrong, or I was wrong, when I wrote in that article that we'd be agnostic about methods, but religious about results. Religious about results, yes. And even though we've run impact measurement workshops and demanded impact plans from our cohort companies, I think Ingenie and everyone could do more to push edtech companies to measure what they do. But agnostic about methods, I think, is no longer possible when we have an African education debate that in many ways is going in the wrong direction. It's not the time to have it now, and I think Dominic from our cohort companies, I was very proud that he spoke up for evidence earlier today. But a lot of the ideas that are coming forward about abandoning traditional methods to education and moving to this 21st century skill inquiry learning agenda are wrong. They are not what the world's best education systems do. They are not supported by evidence or the best learning science. And I think Ingenie, me, everyone here has got to commit to an African education debate that is more evidence-driven in future. I also think there is something that we were right about and wrong about. We said that trying to improve education in Africa isn't something you do because it is easy, but because it is hard. But as we have had to watch our cohort companies struggle to work with government, struggle to partner with corporates, struggle to get into schools and universities, battle for every check from investors, it's been a reminder that the moral arc of this particular universe is especially long. But then we did also say that if something is important enough, even if the odds are stacked against you, you still do it. And education is as important and as fundamentally broken on this continent today as it was 2 years ago. So if you are here representing a corporate, maybe tonight is the time to stop waiting for a government that won't solve this problem and start working with the startup that might do. If you're from government, or you are a teacher, or represent an NGO, maybe tonight's the time to move away from a failed status quo based on political convenience and wishful thinking, and towards new evidence-driven solutions that might actually change things. And if you are an investor, perhaps tonight is the time for all of us to stop talking a big game about the business potential of education in Africa and start actually playing one by putting capital behind the early stage local entrepreneurs who can make a difference. And if we can achieve at least some of that starting this evening, then when someone comes to write another article, whether it's in 2 years or 5 years or 10, they will say that Ingenie's cohort companies, their partners, their supporters, and their investors bent that moral arc just a little bit more towards progress. Thank you very much.